That's the sound of autumn in Scotland. Shorter days, longer nights, crisp leaves, knit jumpers, boots, puddles, golden hour, warm beverages, and an added sense of magic and adventure to even the most mundane of things. If you couldn't already tell, this is my favorite season. It could be because I have an autumn birthday, or simply because the world moves just a little slower after the busy summer and before the holiday rush. I visited Scotland for the first time in autumn, and probably because of that, I always picture Scotland as existing in a perpetual state of falling leaves, warm sun, and cool air. Yes, springtime blossoms are lovely in their own right, but truly, I'm tempted to say that the best time to visit Scotland is in the fall. Prices for flights are usually cheapest in October and November, and the peak tourist season is over, which means fewer crowds, less traffic, and a slower, more enjoyable pace overall. For those of you from North America, fall usually brings to mind caramel apples, pumpkin pie, Halloween, hay rides, and corn mazes, among other classically autumnal things. Although there are a lot of similarities between the two regions due to high numbers of immigrants in North America from the British Isles, there are some massive differences in traditions and activities during autumn. The first autumn I lived in Scotland was during 2020, so not much occurred in terms of fun seasonal activities due to lockdowns. Similar goes for autumn of 2021, although things were definitely moving towards normalcy at that point. That means that this is the first autumn that I've lived in Scotland without COVID crashing the party. In true make the most of it fashion, I decided that I was going to make up for the past 2 missed autumns and make sure to do as many autumnal activities as humanly possible. On that note, shall we begin, Meanderers? My autumn to-do list, in no particular order, includes pumpkin picking, distillery tour, book shopping, nature walks, finding toadstools and mushies, visiting ruins, reading autumnal books, drinking and making apple cider, bonfire night, and baking autumn treats. I fully embraced being a homebody this autumn. I read 13 books in October alone, so my not-so-inner bookworm was really happy this autumn. I'm going to share some of my favorite autumnal books with you later, but let's start with some of the loveliest bookshops I frequented this autumn. First up, we're visiting Dingwall. Dingwall is my new favorite hidden treasure town in Scotland. Located north of Inverness, this tiny little town has some of the most charming shops and small businesses that I've come across so far. Antique stores, curiosity shops, butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers. Dingwall is a little out of the way, but certainly worth the visit. We focused on bookshops and charity shops, and we scored book bargains and beautiful books that I've never seen anywhere else. Picaresque Books in Dingwall was our first stop. It's on the smaller side, but that doesn't mean it's any less noteworthy. This is the place for books in Gaelic, Scottish nonfiction, art and wall prints, and lots of hidden gems. The owner, David, is such a kind and helpful person, and his ability to hunt down rare books is truly a talent. Right across the street is another bookshop with an entirely different feel. High Flight Books is worth spending a couple of hours in, and it was almost impossible to restrict myself to the 5 books that I left with. This shop is literally floor to ceiling full of good books. While in Dingwall, don't miss out on this doeket, or dovecote, depending on where you're from. Allegedly made from Dingwall Castle, or at least what's left of it. I've always been a fan of arrow slits, and I will go out of my way to see them in the wild. It's someone's front yard though, so keep a respectful distance, yeah? Another hidden gem bookstore can be found in Loughinver. Inverbank Books and Newsagents has an amazing collection of new books. Many of these novels are by Scottish authors or set in Scotland. I was here early October, so the shop owner had decorated the shop to have a spooky, witchy, magical feel. The selection of books was so thoughtfully assembled, and I would honestly go back just to look at her collection. For those of you who aren't planning on heading to the Highlands, I do have some great recommendations for you in Glasgow. Caledonia Books, Voltaire and Rousseau, and Thistle books are within a 5-minute walk from each other and are all reasonably priced with great selections. Voltaire and Rousseau is floor to ceiling filled with books and is an adventure to navigate. Thistle Books has a substantial collection of sheet music and books, making it a haven for musicians and book lovers alike. Caledonia Books looks small but has one of the largest collections of used Folio Society books I've ever seen. Plus there's the downstairs level with foreign language books and an old children's book section with much, much more. Needless to say, I think that's the book shopping checked off our autumn list. Next up, distilleries. If you're in Scotland in autumn, or any season for that matter, then head up past Perth and Pitlochry to Blair Athol and visit the Blair Athol Distillery. The vines speak for themselves, but really, could you ask for more beautiful ivy? I don't think so. The distillery offers tours and has a lovely gift shop as well. You can get whiskey chocolate for someone sweet and look at bottles of whiskey for sale. Don't miss the ones in the display case. I was astounded and then deeply curious once I saw their prices. I was driving that day, so no whiskey tour for me, but stopping was worth it just to look at that stunning red ivy. Now, my list didn't just say go to a distillery, but I had written distillery tour on there. So guess what we're going to do next? We're visiting Glenmorangie Distillery in Tain. This distillery is north of Inverness, but so worth the drive. Even from the car park, you can smell from the delicious yeasty, malty scrumptiousness that whiskey is being made nearby. I wish I could bottle that smell. And no, even though whiskey is bottled, it doesn't smell the same. There's no other way I can explain to you what it smells like. You just have to go. Filming and photography isn't permitted inside the distillery, but I did manage to get some good footage here and there on the grounds where recording was permitted. The tour and tasting cost £18 per person and lasted about an hour and a quarter. Book and buy your tickets ahead of time because Glenmorangie is widely known and well loved. The shop has so many different types of Glenmorangie whiskey that you can't get in stores. I really wanted to try Tale of Cake, which was a limited edition whiskey aged in dessert wine casks. The bottle was slightly out of my price range at 350 quid, but thankfully the shop does tasting pours for £7.50, so I got a dram of it that fit in my budget. They have a huge tasting menu with various prices and pours, so if one strikes your fancy, there are some workarounds if a whole bottle isn't doable at the moment. I find that Glenmorangie's whiskey is a smooth, mild, and easygoing whiskey. This was one of the first Scotch whiskies that I got into well before moving to Scotland. Their standard bottle is not expensive, but it also isn't low tier. It sits right at the middle of good whiskey and economy. If you're not sure where to start with drinking whiskey, I think Glenmorangie is a great place. There are a couple of things on my autumn to-do list that can be accomplished in one fell swoop if you're strategic. I'm not in a hurry this autumn, and I wanted to make sure I took things slowly and leisurely whenever I could. Visiting ruins, going on nature walks, and finding toadstools and mushies could, in theory, be accomplished all at once, but I'll share with you a couple wonderful out-of-the-way places that helped check these 3 off my list. This is Loch Assynt. These ruins are just a quick walk from the Loch Assynt car park, which has some informational plaques to help educate you on the natural habitat, the ruined buildings, and the cultural landscape of the surrounding area. I visited in early October and the weather was as Scottish as it could be. Somehow sunny, cloudy, misty, and windy all at once. I'll put pictures of the plaques from the car park here so you can pause and read them if you so choose. The ruins are ruins, meaning that they're not structurally sound in the slightest. Keep your distance and be respectful to these historic buildings. Listening to the waves and waterfalls was like a soothing balm to the soul. although I didn't see any mushrooms or toadstools here, so we'll move on to our next location for that. Welcome to Spinningdale. This village off the North Coast 500 is full of lovely walking trails. We walked to Loch Migdale, and it might have been due to the muddy paths, the constant stopping to point out cute toadstools and mushies, the quick autumn sunset, or some combination of all of those things, but the walk definitely took us longer than we had planned. I'm from an area that has lots of aggressive predators such as bears, mountain lions, coyotes, and moose, so I was a bit panicked walking back in the dark, even though I know Scotland has no natural predators. Except for the wild haggis, but that's a story for another time. Look at this cute little bird that popped up out of the grass with the zoomies once it heard us walking by. It was so cute, and I can't believe I caught it on camera. Can you tell what bird that is? Leave a comment below if you know so we can all be a little more educated. I found that the best place to find nature, ruins, and mushrooms is in a cemetery. Scotland has so many beautiful cemeteries, and they definitely fit in with the autumnal feel of this video. Please be respectful when walking through. People have come to rest here, so respect is of the utmost importance. Grave markers used to be so masterfully done with such impressive handiwork. I'm always on the hunt for certain motifs on gravestones, and the thistle is just one of them. This next activity on my autumn to-do list is not very Scottish, but it's definitely something I still think of as an essential autumn activity. Let's go pumpkin picking! That's right, windswept version of me. We're going pumpkin picking. Pumpkins aren't indigenous to Scotland. They're what's considered a New World crop, along with tomatoes, pineapples, sunflowers, and avocados, among others, which simply means that they originated in the Americas. North America has a tendency to make pumpkin spice flavored everything in the fall, and that's something that still hasn't quite taken off here in Scotland. You can still get a pumpkin spice latte at Starbucks though, don't worry. We're here at Cairney Farm in the Kingdom of Fife to pick our own fresh pumpkins. Canned pumpkin is just about everywhere in the States, and oftentimes you can get a large can for under $3. In Scotland, canned pumpkin is not so common, and when you do stumble across canned pumpkin, it's usually at a price point that I think is extortionate. So, in order to have my pumpkin and eat it too, we're going to a pumpkin patch. You'll definitely want to book ahead of time, especially as the years go on and people realize all of the delicious recipes contained within these chunky squash. Keep an eye out for weird-looking pumpkins. We're really mature here at Meandering Mena and didn't find this funny at all. Cairney Farm sent visitors away with little cups of spiced cider made with their own apples. From pumpkin picking, we move on to the messier, slightly less fun step of pumpkin processing. We're getting as much of the stringy bits and seeds out of these pumpkins before flipping them flat side down and roasting them in the oven until the flesh separates easily from the pumpkin skin. Then it's off to the food processor or blender to turn the cooked pumpkin flesh into homemade pumpkin puree. I roasted 2 pumpkins and I got several quarts worth of Ziploc freezer bags. I think it was around 8 very full bags, so that's a really good yield for the amount of work if you ask me. Based on cost, it turned out to be around a third of the price for the amount of pumpkin that I got versus if I had tried to get that amount of pumpkin from cans here in the UK. I'm making pumpkin bread and pumpkin muffins from the same old pumpkin bread recipe that my family has used for years and years. It hasn't failed yet. You can find loads of pumpkin recipes online, and something to keep in mind is that they're usually designed for canned pumpkin, not fresh. Fresh pumpkin is a lot more watery, so the amount of dry ingredients you'll need is usually more than the recipe says. Also, I usually double the amount of spices that a recipe says to put in. I find that recipes are usually more on the mild side, and I like flavor and pizzazz in my pumpkin treats. I add allspice, cinnamon, nutmeg, and cloves in generous quantities. I'm not a fan of ginger in pumpkin bread because it's a little overpowering and it can transform the flavor from pumpkin bread to gingerbread like that. That's just my preference, so you do you. During the muffin making part of this evening, I also got the idea to make myself a larger cup of warm cider. I grew up drinking mulled cider every autumn, and we used to hunt for those little mulling spice packs in the grocery store to make it. Warm cider is so simple to make, and I'll share with you how I do it for far less than it costs to get the portioned mulling spice packets in the store. The trick is to go to a Middle Eastern or ethnic grocer's and get bags of whole spices. You can usually get all the spices you need for under 7 pounds, and this will give you so much more mulling spice than you could get for the same price through a big grocery chain. Plus, we love supporting small businesses here at Meandering Mena, so it's a win-win-win. I make my spice cider with cardamom pods, cinnamon sticks, whole cloves, and star anise seed, but you can really make it to fit your taste. Add your spices to apple juice and let the flavors mingle and heighten on medium heat. If you're feeling over the age of 18 or 21, depending on your country of residence, then you could also add a little something to your cider, but I'll leave that up to you. I use some festive muffin tin liners to make removal easier and to give it a little spooky season feel. I also wanted to give these pumpkin muffins a little bit more of a fancy moment, so I added some cream cheese frosting to the top and had fun just piping it from a Ziploc bag. After frosting the cooled muffins and expressing your artistic side, the next step is to take your pumpkin muffin cupcake deliciousness, pour yourself a cup of spiced cider, light some candles, and do some cozy autumnal reading. This year, I'm a member of both the Scottish National Trust and Historic Environment Scotland, and they send magazines periodically with things to do and special events coming up. These make for great casual reading and are really helpful when planning future trips and outings. This next one is a charity shop find. This is a collection of Scottish folk tales and legends compiled by Barbara Kerr Wilson. This is a really interesting collection of stories, many of which have an element of magic to them, making it a perfect autumn read. Next up is a poetry anthology that is a must-have for poetry lovers. This is A Poem for Every Autumn Day by Ali Asiri. She has the other 3 seasons as well, along with anthologies for every night of the year, which are all just as lovely. Keeping on the poetry trend is Other Worlds, an anthology of Scottish Island poems compiled by Stuart Conn. This collection gives some much-needed recognition to some of Scotland's stunning isles, including the Hebrides, Orkney, and more. Next up is a truly captivating read by C.J. Cook called The Lighthouse Witches. This was a really interesting book set in Scotland about mysterious events surrounding lighthouses, small coastal towns, curses, witch hunts, and much more. I was hooked. Finally, we have Hex by Jenny Fagan. This is a masterful retelling of Gaelis Duncan's last hours of life after being wrongly accused of witchcraft. It's a sad chapter in Scottish history, but the writing is poignant and easily transports the reader into the world of Edinburgh in 1591, just before Gaelis's execution. It's a short read, but it doesn't make you any less contemplative of justice, fear, and womanhood. There's only one thing left on my autumn to-do list, and that's to experience a bonfire night, also called Guy Fawkes Night. This takes place on the 5th of November, if you didn't already know, and it's usually celebrated with fireworks and, obviously, a bonfire. Thank you so much for spending a little of your autumn with me, Meandering Mena. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you the next time we meander the gorgeous globe together. Bye-bye!